Hello, it's the Friday Talkie, and I've actually got a couple of topics to talk about. First though, I have to say a big thank you to Steve, the 9/11 gamer, who very generously donated this game. Ronin Blade. I don't know anything about this, but I'm very much looking forward to having a go at that. It's on the PS1. PS1 is cool, so yeah, looking forward to trying that. Thank you, Steve. Link to Steve's channel down there. Now, I did a little bit of shopping last week. Can't remember what day. It was this week. May have been Monday. Can't remember. I found myself in Sheffield. Andrea was there on business, and I went along for the ride, and I went to, what's the shop called? Here we go. I was actually planning on going in there and doing some like free promotional video, if you like, and show you what's in there, but I didn't in the end. These people here, Playtime Video Games, yay! I'm not being paid for this. They're in Sheffield. They're on the corner of like the town square, if you like. Brilliant little shop. I mean, they've got all your modern stuff, which I barely even glanced at, because in the corner, in a little alcove, they've got retro stuff, and that's what I went there for. I'd looked in there a few weeks ago, and I hadn't actually got any money on me, and I thought, I've got to come back to this. So I did, and I bought, well, I was going in particular for one game, but while I was looking for that, I came across that, which I've heard reports of this being appalling, but I kind of didn't care. I thought, I like Starsky and Hutch, the TV series. I haven't bothered with the film. I think the film they based on series 3 of the TV series, which was all kind of comedy-ish and wrong. I like series 1 and 2 of Starsky and Hutch. I have them on DVD. I haven't watched all of them yet. But I thought, we'll give that a go, because wouldn't that be cool to drive the striped tomato? And interestingly, this does have your original Starsky and Hutch cast on there, you see. It is Paul Michael Glaser and what's his face? Bloody forgotten now. David Soul. Yeah, cool. So that, I just picked that up because it was £2. So even if it's absolutely abysmal, it's only £2. What I went there to buy was this, because I like racing games, I like motorbike games, I like the Atari Jaguar, and to have a motorcycle racing game on the Atari Jaguar, and one that I know is meant to be quite impressive in terms of speed and throwing the sprites around, I thought, I want some of that. That's why I went there. However, while I was paying for them, I found myself chatting to the chap behind the counter, who he was a retro collector. He collects his Mega Drives, all kinds of Sega stuff in fact, but especially Mega Drive, Japanese, or umpteen different versions of. He showed me photos on his phone. Anyway, so I'm standing there chatting to him, and while I'm chatting, I'm glancing around the room in the shop, and I kind of go, stop talking mid-sentence. Literally, my jaw dropped. You can't talk when you're... And he looked at me and was like, what? And I couldn't speak for a moment. I just like... And he looks across, and you see is what I'm pointing at. Now, I'm a hardware collector. And as a hardware collector, over the years, I've had a few holy grails. I mean, anyone who collects anything, they have their grails, they're things that they really want. They think, I'll probably never get that because I just won't be able to afford it, or it's so rare I'll never see it. And there have been a few systems. The Jupiter Ace was one, the Enterprise 64 was one, the Vectrex and the Virtual Boy for some time, and the Neo Geo AES. They were holy grails for me. I thought, they're going to be so hard to find or so expensive. Mostly this was before I started buying stuff on the internet, but even so, even when I did, finding them at a sensible price, it's not always easy. But my grails have almost always been hardware. I have only ever had one software Holy Grail. There's only been one game I've ever thought, if I ever come across that at a sensible price, not ever expecting to come across it at a sensible price. So what was I standing agog, pointing at like some kind of mute idiot? It is a game I've played on emulators because, you know, download good God. Download the ISO, burn it onto a disc, won't play on my Sega Saturn. I've got one of those Chinese knockoff action replay things that will allow you to play foreign games, but it will only play originals, it won't play burned discs. And I know you can do a chip mod thing that will allow that, but I haven't done it and I don't care to do it. So I thought, I'm never going to get this. It sells for crazy money. And the thing is, this in the shop was 50 quid. Why the hell were they selling it so cheap? Because the inlay, the paper inlay, is not original. That's a reproduction. I don't care. I want to play the game, and I want to play the game on original hardware. So while a software collector might turn their nose up at this and say, you haven't got the original inlay, haven't got the spine card, haven't got the instructions, I do not give a crap. I've got the original disc, and I can play it on my UK Sega Saturn with the action replay cartridge. And I think 55 quid for something that sells anywhere between 150 and 300 odd pounds. Yeah, I don't give a crap about inlays. So I was chuffed to bits. Never thought I'd get to play this on original Saturn hardware. I thought it was always going to have to be emulated, and playing it on an emulator on my PC, in fact my PC currently can't even handle that anyway. I used to do it on my old PC, which had a good graphics card. This one, not so much. But when I was doing it, it was with a PlayStation joypad, and you really need the 6-button Saturn pad to play that game and get the proper effect. And I thought, I'll never experience that, not owning it, maybe at a show somewhere. So that made my day when I found that. Absolutely chuffed to bits. So I guess if I have a question, it is, do you have a software Holy Grail? I mean, we've covered hardware because I'm all about the hardware mostly. Anyway, that was my only software Holy Grail. What's yours? Have you got one? Okay, that's that. Moving on. A number of, I suppose I'm going to combine a couple of different things that I've read here. Watched. Not on the ball. I watched a video by SegaCDUniverse, which was a response to a video by the Gamergodsfail. The End of Gaming Evolution? Question mark. And the question is gaming hardware and game design, has the evolution of it pretty much stopped when you think about the progression from 8-bit to 16-bit to 32-bit and the different generations of hardware? You knew the difference between your Commodore 64 game and your Mega Drive game, and then to your PS1, and each step was a big leap, but each step has been getting smaller. And it's not just that. I mean, the leap from the PS3 to the PS4 is minimal. You can tell the difference. It just looks richer. There is more detail. The physics are probably a bit better, but is it £400 better or 300 and whatever better? I don't think so. I haven't got a PS4 yet. I can't afford one. It's probably going to be several years before I get one, because I can't justify paying that kind of money for what isn't a very big leap. And I've still got so many PS3 games that I haven't played yet that are sitting there on the shelf, and I haven't had the time. But it's not just the technology that's not leaping ahead in great big bounds. It's the game style, development, design. Things previously moved on. I mean, you had, each time there was a new generation, you would have a kind of a game, a genre, a style, something that you just couldn't do on the previous one. Up to a point. I think the PS2 was the last time that happened. Your sandbox games became popular, and that doesn't seem to be happening anymore. That I don't recall seeing anything on the PS3 that couldn't have been done on the PS2. Granted, it's prettier, but it's just more of the same, and in fact is getting more conservative. And that there is no evolution, it's devolution, if anything. That's probably not even the right word, that sounds a bit political, but no. Yeah, things are regressing, things are just getting so conservative. There is nothing new, unless you're looking at indie games. But they're not using the full power. That's the thing. They're doing clever things, they're doing stuff that's different, that the big AAA developers wouldn't dream of doing. But they're not pushing the hardware. And we haven't, I don't recall seeing anything like that for some time. And the question is also asked in these videos, what about the virtual reality stuff? Is that the future? Now the Gamergodsfail, I don't think he'd tried any of the virtual reality things that are around. I mean, is it called the Morpheus? The Sony thing, whatever it's called. I haven't tried that, but I have tried the Oculus Rift. Is it the future? Because, well, Gamergodsfail, his view was it's not really a game. And it's true, some of the things that are on there aren't a game. Certainly the thing that I had to go on wasn't a game. But I think it actually is possible to have a game on a thing like that. They're just playing with it at the moment. Ignoring the fact that the technology I don't think is quite there in terms of display. And I think that's down to two things really. They need to refine, they need to increase the screen resolution, because the first thing I noticed was a kind of a mesh, which is what you see. If you look at your LCD TV really closely, you push your face up against the screen so your nose is nearly touching it, and you just see the mesh, the lines in between the pixels. And it's distracting, and that's what I saw. That was the very first thing I saw. And the other thing that was a bit of a downer was the lenses that they were using on it. So you can focus, because this screen's here, you need lenses so that you just don't make your eyes explode. They need better quality lenses because it was blurred, and that was... It felt to me like they were a cheap pair of plastic lenses, where what's really needed is some quality glass, because it was just a little bit milky, bit blurry. I could focus, but it just wasn't quite right, and it was distracting. They need to refine it so that there are no visual distractions, get rid of the imperfections, get rid of the mesh, get rid of the slight blurry milkiness. But the other thing they need to do is they need a control system. Oculus Rift is for the PC, and you do not want to be doing mouse and keyboard because you can't see it. You take your hands off it, you've lost it. It's got to be something in your hand, and it needs to be something very, very intuitive. And do you know what I think would actually be the ideal controller for a thing like that? It's motion control. It's a Wiimote. I'm horrified at the thought, but I think you need... You've got the whole head tracking thing, but you need something else, and I think a joypad won't necessarily do the trick, because if you turn your head... Say you're holding a gun and you're pointing directly ahead, and then you turn your head, your gun sight doesn't move with you. So you need a controller that is also going to be tracked. And it needs to be independent of your head movement. If they master that, and they're kind of... your movement within the 3D space is going to have to be controlled. And hey, nunchuck. It's horrible. I loathe the Wiimote and nunchuck as a controller for conventional games or for games on the Wii. Hate it, hate it. But you know, I think with the an Oculus Rift type thing, that would be the way to go. Aim it with your Wiimote. Control your movement with your nunchuck. Look around with your head. That would work. That would be the future of gaming, I think, feasibly, if they put it in a game and make it something that's fun and not something that's... A sandbox could be fun if they make it fun. Don't make it like day-to-day... It's like The Sims. I used to play The Sims and I thought it was great for a little while because you could twat about and do silly things, but to progress you had to get a job and do the cooking and do the cleaning and go for a crap. And it stopped being fun because it was just playing the game was like everyday life, and that can be really tedious. So they need to avoid that. They need to make games in a three-dimensional world with really good interactive controls that we, you know, Wii controls. I never thought I'd see the day I'd say I thought that was a good kind of control system, but yeah. But make it bizarre, fun, enjoyable, not like the real world, and I think that could be the future of gaming. But they need high resolution, better visual integrity, if you like, if that's the word. Something. Yeah. Okay, so that is my response to that. Do I think it's going to happen? Oculus might make it happen. This is kind of moving on a little bit because Microsoft are dumping the Kinect thing. Well, they're not dumping it, are they? They're doing what they have said all along that they would never do, and they're going to produce an Xbone without the Kinect. And they're doing it because their sales of the Xbone are really, really poor. And they're really, really poor because they've got an expensive console. It's £100 more expensive than the PS4 because they've got this piece of hardware that everyone said, we don't want that. That's not what we want. And it's a worry. It's the arrogance, and I mean Nintendo have been shockingly arrogant in that there are companies, those two in particular, who they have ideas they think are great. They think this is new, this is clever, this is fantastic, this will be the future of gaming, and they don't listen. They don't understand what it is that gamers actually want. And gamers can be jumping up and down and screaming what they actually want. And what they actually want is more of the same, just better. But it is, which is kind of is that contradicting what I've just been saying? Because more of the same, only better is what we're getting with the PS4, and it actually ain't quite enough. But you know, that the gaming companies have this arrogance that they will stuff something down our throats and say, you're going to have this, you're going to pay extra for it, we don't care if you don't want it, we think it's so good that you'll come to see our point of view. Well, that hasn't happened. It hasn't happened for Microsoft, and they're backpedaling like mad. It hasn't happened for Nintendo, and apparently they're now designing a new console. I don't know if that's... I just heard that today. I don't know the details of that. Things like the Oculus, well, I think it's great that the Oculus Rift exists as a PC peripheral, as a, well, I was going to say independent company, but now Facebook own it, don't they? But it's leading the way. If it does well, if there are any gaming companies left by then, because they might just run themselves into the ground with their arrogance, maybe Sony will see the light. They're building their own thing. if they can sort out. I mean, so PlayStation as a brand, as a product, is doing well. It's profitable. It's just the rest of Sony is kind of falling apart and doing badly. I hope they can survive and move forward. Maybe they will. I don't know if it's what everyone else wants. Maybe they'll give me what I want. Sony, give me a virtual reality headset and a Wiimote with nunchucks, please. I would like that very much. I would spend significant money on it if I had significant money, which I don't. Give me one free, please. I'll give you a good review. Okay, moving on. I saw a video. Is that bad, I watched a really good video this week by a chap. Well, his channel is called Video Creators. His name is Tim Schmoyer. And his channel is all about promoting your YouTube channel, helping you succeed on YouTube and in video online media in general. All kinds of very, very useful hints and tips and pieces of information, and I do recommend checking out his channel. I'll link to it down there. He's also, I don't know if he runs or is just involved with another thing called Real SEO. I came across that on Twitter. I think that's how I came across his channel. But anyway, he has done a video entitled "The Psychological Influence You Have on Fans. Be Careful." I don't want to repeat everything he says because he put in all the effort to making this, but link to his video down there. Check it out later. Watch mine first, eh? Anyway, this video of his, there's been some scientific research on a phenomena called parasocial relationships. And this is where it's a one-sided relationship, and YouTube is a prime example. You've got the video maker, me, and you've got the viewer, you. And you very likely know a lot more about me than I know about you, unless you're one of the channels that I subscribe to, and then it's maybe equal. But largely, you know more about me, and you certainly feel you know me a lot more than I feel I know you. That's called a parasocial relationship, and it produces certain phenomena, shall we say. It has an effect on the viewer that maybe isn't felt by the video maker. And these effects have been identified through scientific research, and there are 3 main effects, some of which I have noticed, and this is why I'm talking about it. I've noticed these effects in my audience, you lot. One of them actually I don't think is a factor on this channel. The video maker can influence the self-image of the viewer. Sometimes the viewers find they actually feel less attractive or whatever, less that they look up to the video maker and they think, wow, he's great, I wish I was that handsome. Physical self-image, that just ain't a problem on here. I do not think that's ever going to be an issue here. But there are a couple of other things where I have seen behaviour that I think that relate to this. One thing, it's entitled or subtitled or whatever, can't speak. Identity. There are a couple of like subheadings here. A feeling of acceptance by the viewer. They feel that they're completely accepted and everything they think and say is completely accepted by the video maker. I find that odd, but I have seen behaviour like that. And I'm trying to think of an example, and this, I will put the two together actually. The other thing is they project their own thoughts and feelings. The viewer projects their own thoughts and feelings onto the video maker. So if the viewer thinks a particular thing on a particular subject, they assume that the video maker thinks the same thing. And this is often as far from the truth as you could possibly get. But there was both of those, I think, are covered by something it happened a few weeks ago. I had a viewer, a long time viewer, who, as far as I was aware, had never commented before, who expressed some opinions on a given subject that were completely counter to anything I've ever thought, and I disagreed with them, and they got very upset about it. Frankly, I thought the person was being a dick, but there you are. And it was that they were shocked that I disagreed with them. And I can only think that this is that acceptance thing. They thought I would accept whatever they thought, maybe. And more than that, they perceived me as being a certain way, open to suggestions and open to advice, and I wasn't. Because from where I sat, they were trying to teach Granny to suck eggs, and what they were suggesting as good advice to me was like stating the obvious 101, and the first thing I ever would have tried. And it was actually quite insulting to me. I was like, do you really think I didn't think of that already? Do you really think I don't know what I'm doing? And I reacted quite abruptly and bluntly, and because it was insulting. Yeah. And that comes under that. Their perception of you can be completely off. And it's fascinating. And all of this comes from the one-sided nature of being on YouTube and being a video maker. And that's one thing. The other thing, the third thing, behaviour. The way a YouTube video maker behaves on here affects the behaviour of their viewers. I don't know. An example would be negativity. If you're making a video and you behave in a negative manner, your audience can behave in a negative manner because they're influenced by you. If you're arrogant or bullshit or extremely opinionated or closed-minded or whatever, that will affect your audience. And there will be those who say, well, as that kind of video maker, they're going to attract that kind of viewer. And that is true, but it's also been scientifically proven, though don't ask me how, through studies, I guess, that the actual type of video and the video maker, yes, they attract a certain type, but more so, they're actually influencing the audience. So that people, if the video maker is behaving like a complete dick, they influence people who might otherwise be very reasonable and well behaved to also behave like dicks. Because it's like monkey see, monkey do. And it happens on here. And I know, I watch a lot of videos and I follow a lot of channels, and I follow channels that I like, who are sometimes very opinionated and sometimes a little bit, not confrontational, but controversial, shall we say. And I look at the comments and I think, Jesus, I'm glad I don't have that audience, because they behave like a bunch of, excuse me, children leave the room. Have you gone? Good. They behave like a bunch of fucking assholes. And I think, I'm so glad I don't have that audience. But then I think, they're actually behaving like that because of the videos that they're watching on that particular channel. They are controversial. They are not confrontational in terms of insulting the audience, but in terms of challenging the opinion by presenting something that is going to polarize the viewers, and a lot of them are not going to like it. And it's done in a pretty direct confident manner. And if someone confidently states something to you, I believe this, and it's contrary to what you believe, yeah, it can produce a fairly negative reaction from the audience. I am very, very glad that I have what I consider to be a fantastic audience. The people who comment here behave in a thoroughly respectful and pleasant manner. There might be those who say, well, that's because you block and ban anyone who behaves like a dick. Well, yes, I do. I don't block and ban anyone who disagrees with me, though, and that's the difference. I'm not a fascist, I just don't put up with bad behaviour. But I suppose I try to behave well myself. I try to treat you lot with respect. You know, I value your opinions, even if I don't necessarily agree with them. They're valued. So, I guess I don't really have anything to conclude from all of that, except kind of what Tim says on his video. Be careful how you portray yourself, how you treat your audience. Be aware that what you do on here affects other people. You wouldn't think it. I mean, I'm just sitting here going blah 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 in front of me camera. There's no one else in the room. How's that going to affect anyone else? But it can. And that can come back and bite you in the arse if you're not careful. I mean, I have had that. I have offended people and they've caused me no end of trouble. But it can be a good thing as well. It can be a very positive thing. I get no end of pleasure out of the reaction I get from you lot. It makes me feel good. Yeah, it's just something, it interested me. Link to the original video by Tim Schmoyer down there. Kind of think that's all I've got to talk about now. That will do. So what is coming up now? This week. I'm going to do a video of that of the game, that 9/11 gamer sent me, Ronin thing. Forgotten what it's called. It's down there. Yeah, that one. And I'm going to do videos of the 3 games that I bought in Sheffield. I'm saving Radiant Silvergun for last. Because it's just so special. Yeah. Other stuff? I don't know. You know me, I make it up as I go along. Yeah. Anything else? No. So, I don't think I've said it in a while. More of the same then, innit? Innit. Who invented that word? I'll shut up now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the thumbs up button. I upload videos daily, so go ahead and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more. To all those who've already subscribed, I'd just like to say a great big thank you.